This is an SBC Media Partners production.
Swung on, hit high and deep, right field. Could it be? It is out of here.
Phillies fans, these are your glove stories with Murph.
Let's check in with Greg Murphy. Murphy, you got a special guest, huh?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Glove Stories with Murph. It is nice to have you with us, and we are excited about the conversation today. But, of course, first, the Glove Stories with Murph is brought to you by the great folks at betPARX Casino and Sportsbook app, SHIBE, Vintage Sports, and Phillies Nation. And today we welcome in from Phillies Nation to talk all things Philly, Tim Kelly, who joins us right now. And Tim, good to have you here. And thanks for being here. Hopefully you enjoyed your All-Star break. We are coming out of the All-Star break as we tape this episode today. Hopefully you got a little time off. But what were your thoughts of the festivities out there in Los Angeles?
Yeah, a little bit of it was spent flying back from Miami, but once I got back, the game was the game. I mean, I don't think anything earth-shattering happened in the game. The home run derby was kind of a fun evening, even if things didn't particularly go noteworthy for Kyle Schwarber. So it was a cool evening. I always loved the celebration and the pageantry of the All-Star game, and definitely ready for the second half to start.
Yeah, it's funny. I was reading some of the stories after the home run derby, and I guess there was that little controversy whether or not Kyle had hit an extra home run and it would have been a tie and all of that. And I thought Kyle's comments for the whole thing were just great. He's like, you know what? I wasn't really thinking too much about it. You know, just out there to have fun. He got one at bat in the All-Star game as well. Or actually, he got two at bats in the All-Star game. So good to see him out there representing the Phillies. And obviously he represented them very well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in a perfect world for the Phillies, you would add Bryce Harper there and at least one of Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. Yeah. So that's just kind of how it goes sometimes.
All right. Well, let's turn our focus now to the second half, because here the Phillies sit. The unofficial second half of the season. If I'm not mistaken, it will be game 93, the first game of the second half of the season. And, well, the Phillies sit in a position where technically they control their own destiny with a long, long way to go. But certainly when you think about where they were in May and then what they did in June and July, the Phillies had to feel pretty pleased, I would think, to be 5 games over 500 and in the mix for the wild card. Just give me your assessment of the first half. Any big surprises for you? Anything that really stood out for you, whether it be a positive or a negative?
I just think once Rob Thompson took over as manager, it really did change the course of the season. And I think there was some uncertainty whether making a managerial change would do that. But to me, he's done a tremendous job. The Phillies entered the All-Star break with a plus 62 run differential, which is really one of the better marks in baseball, top 7 or 8. They're in a really good situation. I don't think they're going to really compete for the NL East, but the wild card feels very much in reach, one of those 3 wild card spots. And it's something that on June 1st or whatever that was, June 3rd, I think when they made the change, it would have been pretty difficult to imagine. But it just does feel like there's been a culture change for the Phillies since then. And I think the clearest example of it was you lost 2 games in Toronto. You had a couple guys unavailable. It was an ugly situation. And then you went to Miami, where in the past you have gotten trounced pretty much every time you went there. And instead of that, you swept them, including stealing a game where Sandy Alcantara, who, in my opinion, should have started the All-Star game, was on the mound and pitched 8 innings. It really sends you into the All-Star break with an entirely different mindset than you would have had you lost 2 of 3 or been swept there.
It's an interesting thought, and I agree with you. And Alec Bohm said something to me, I think it was before the first game in Miami. I think I asked him how important it was to try and get the momentum back heading into the All-Star break and then coming out of the All-Star break to play good baseball. And I thought Alec, who I think has matured so much over the past couple of months, he gave a really thoughtful answer. He said something along the lines of, you know, it is really important to be playing well going in and coming out, because it kind of shows everybody in the clubhouse, in the front office, who you are. At this point of the year, It really identifies you like, we are a team that is not going to give up. We are a team that's going to be scrappy. We are a team that is going to be in this for the long haul. And that was before they won the 3 games down there. And so I just thought that was an interesting way of looking at it. And I thought the fact that Alec, who's a young player, was thinking about it in those terms certainly was good. And I tend to agree with them. This is an important little stretch of the season. You want to come out now of the All-Star break with some momentum.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is head into the All-Star break having lost like 5 of 6 and have it creep into your head and certainly creep into media narratives when people don't have anything else to talk about for a few days that, well, you had like a 4 or 5 week stretch where you played well, but outside of that, your record is terrible. You erased that by playing really well in Miami, and now you come out of the All-Star break with the Cubs, who are frankly a team that at minimum you should take 2 out of 3 from this weekend. So you're in a really good situation, I think, in regards to the wild card and returning to the postseason for the first time in over a decade.
Yeah. Give me some keys as we look forward for a successful second half of the season. First of all, how well do you think the Phillies have to play to stay in the postseason mix and ultimately get that first postseason spot in the decade?
I think to get one of those wild card spots, you're looking about 88 wins. So, and that's what I projected them at before the season. Now, the path that they've taken to get there certainly hasn't been how you draw it up, but if you get there, you get there. And I think that's what it is in terms of keys. Obviously, you have Bryce Harper and Gene Segura. You need to get those 2 back, and you need to find some way to stabilize center field. And I think your biggest need at the deadline has become adding another starting pitcher. But to me, the keys are the bullpen continuing to pitch, not necessarily as well as they were before the deadline, but kind of finding a way to stabilize things and stay a top-tier bullpen. Jose Alvarado, if he continues to pitch like this, I mean, over the last month, he's been one of the 5 best bullpen pitchers in baseball. I do think it's an interesting narrative, and I've kind of tried to ask Rob Thompson about this a few different ways. In the second half, how do you manage Sir Anthony Dominguez, who is now at the point where he's pitching more than he's pitched in 3 years combined, probably? How do you manage him? Because obviously he's a very special talent that you want to keep healthy. And then, I mean, the rest of the bullpen as a whole, you have other guys. Andrew Bellotti stepped up. I think the bullpen, to me, would be the biggest X factor going into the second half, because for the last few years we've talked about, well, if the Phillies just had a bullpen that was league average, they went from having a bullpen that was one of the worst in the league to now having a top 5 or 7 unit. If that can continue, it completely changes how you think about the second half.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think back to those seasons that got away late. That is exactly what everyone was saying. If we only had a bullpen that could do the job, 60% of the time, which is very much league average or below, then they would have gotten into the postseason. Certainly, they're better. They have pitched better than that of late.
The all-new betPARX Casino and Sportsbook app is here for both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Get in on all the action, whether it's baseball, the basketball and hockey playoffs, golf, all your favorite sports. Download the all-new betPARX Casino and Sportsbook app and make your first bet risk-free up to $750. Bet more than the score. Bet on individual player performances for hits, home runs, and strikeouts. Bet innings, first team to score, and more. betPARX is the only sportsbook and casino app that I recommend. The betPARX Casino and Sportsbook app, where odds, bets, slots, and games all come together in perfect harmony right in your pocket. Sportsbook and all your favorite casino games for real money, all in one amazing app. Live in-game betting lets you bet while you watch the game. Download right now in the App Store, Google Play Store, or at betPARX.com and use my promo code Murph. betPARX is also an official proud betting operator of the PGA Tour. The all-new betPARX Casino and Sportsbook app. You must be 21 and in Pennsylvania or New Jersey. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Welcome to This Week in Philly Baseball History, presented by SHIBE Vintage Sports. This week in 2015, a 22-year-old Aaron Nola made his major league debut at home against Tampa. The Louisiana native allowed just 1 run through 6 innings, a home run from the opposing pitcher. Celebrate more Philly sports history with clothing from SHIBE Vintage Sports, where there's a story in every stitch. Visit them at 13th and Walnut Streets or at shibesports.com.
Phillies Nation is your source for breaking news, original analysis, trade insights, and more. Read today's articles at philliesnation.com.
Today, we welcome in from Phillies Nation to talk all things Philly, Tim Kelly, who joins us right now. And Tim, what about, when I'm walking around and I'm in the Wawa and someone stops me and asks me a question about the Phillies, more often than not at this moment, the question is about the right fielder, Nick Castellanos. Can he figure it out? Will he figure it out? My answer has been consistent because I believe it, obviously, that guys like Nick Castellanos generally do figure it out because they are so talented offensively. Look, he's not a defensive player. He's an offensive player. It's why he is where he is. It's why he gets paid what he gets paid. It's been a struggle for him, been a little bit better of late. But do you think that, if he were to get back to the kind of hitter that we expected him to be, we're talking about a monster second half out of that guy, right?
You're talking about a monster second half out of the Phillies offense because eventually you have Bryce Harper and Gene Segura potentially returning as well. JT Realmuto seemed to heat up before the second half or before the All-Star break. So I think at some point I just keep saying Nick Castellanos is too good to continue hitting like this. I looked back at it the other day. The only player in baseball since 2014 with more doubles is Freddie Freeman out of anyone in the league. So this is not someone, I get it. He took advantage of perhaps like the most hitter-friendly park in Cincinnati last year. But this is someone who played in Detroit and thrived. And Comerica Park is one of the least hitter-friendly parks. In fact, Nick Castellanos complained about it near the end that he didn't get to put up home run numbers because it was such a hitter-unfriendly park. But this is someone that in Detroit, in his brief time with the Cubs and then with the Reds, pretty consistently was one of the league's best doubles hitters. And I just think at some point he's going to return to being that. Defensively, he is not a good defender. I mean, every metric bears it out. Your eyes bear it out. That was not the plan. That, unfortunately for the Phillies, is just how things have gone with Bryce Harper not being able to play in right field this season. But from a long-term perspective, I think you look at him as getting the bulk of his at-bats at DH. So the important thing is getting his bat turned around.
Agreed. And I will say this. I mean, he hasn't been as bad in right field as I think some people thought he might. Early on, I think he struggled a little bit. He's been better of late. Now, certainly he's not getting to every ball that a above average right fielder will get to. But for the most part, I think he's held his own as a less than average defensive player. Rhys Hoskins is another guy who you look at his numbers from the first half and you project them out for the season and you say to yourself, wow, pretty darn good season. He's had stretches where he's been really hot. He's had stretches where he's been cold. But more than any other season, I feel like Rhys Hoskins has been relatively consistent this entire season.
He has. I mean, it's just you kind of take for granted the type of production that he puts up because his introduction was, of course, the 2017 season where he's hitting home runs at an unsustainable pace. But he's someone that pretty consistently gets on base. And when he gets hot, he's someone that carries your team for a couple weeks. And, boy, if he could have one of those stretches coming out of the All-Star break, I just feel like this next month, maybe not even month, 3 weeks is about tiding things over till you get reinforcements both from the trade deadline and potentially getting Segura, Harper, and Zach Eflin back. So if you can just play solid for the next month, obviously September one way or another is where you're going to have to make hay. But if Hoskins can have one of those stretches coming up, that would be gigantic.
Yeah, we obviously when Bryce went down, the narrative was, and it's true, you can't replace Bryce Harper. You can't replace that offensive production. But a red-hot Rhys Hoskins does an awful lot to fill that void. And if you can get him going and carry him until Bryce gets back, you're right. That would be really, really good. I mean, we obviously don't know when Bryce will be back. The hope is right around, the end of August, maybe at the very, if you listen to Bryce, perhaps slightly earlier, Gene in the same way. But I think it's safe to say right around September 1st, we can start to expect getting both those bats in the lineup, and that certainly will be good with 4 weeks to play at that point in the season. All right, how about the starting pitching? Again, something that has been a strength all season long. We know what the Phillies have at the top of the rotation with Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola and how good they've been. The concern, obviously, is Zach Eflin. We'll talk about him in a minute. But give me your thoughts on the other four guys. Kyle has pitched well his last two outings. Ranger Suarez pitched well his last outing. It's certainly a strength of this team, and if they can get outings like that more often than not, you win with starting pitching in this league.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Kyle Gibson went blow for blow with Sandy Alcantara in his last start, but he came at probably as close as you can expect him to do. So he was very good. If he's your number 4 or 5 starter, you're in good shape. And Ranger Suarez, to me, is someone that, if you get Ranger Suarez 2 or 3 runs, he can front run as well as anybody. He doesn't care about giving up a few runs if he has a few runs to work with. He's someone that will give you 6 or 7 innings in a good situation. So he kind of you get a feeling. I was talking about this with Oscar, the Spanish announcer. If he gets through that first inning, all good, you have a very good feeling about what Ranger Suarez is going to do on a given day. And then, Aaron Nola has been one of the best pitchers in baseball. By the time you added in that 8-inning performance in Miami, 8 in the 3rd inning, it was clear he should have been an all-star. And Zach Wheeler, since he came to the Phillies, has been one of the top 5 starters in baseball. So you're very good at those top 2 spots. And boy, if you could have a number 3 that at times can pitch like an ace, you would be in a hell of a situation.
How concerned are you about Zach Eflin?
I'd be pretty concerned about that because he kind of, I don't know if the Phillies didn't officially call it a setback, but that's essentially what it amounts to. So you don't know when you're going to get him back. And even when you do get him back, with the history with the knees, you worry about if there's another setback. And I don't think you can go into August with Bailey Falter or Christopher Sanchez or a bullpen game every 5 days. So to me, that becomes the number one need. And if you get Zach Eflin back in August, September, whatever the case may be, that's great. And you'd rather have 6 starters and have to figure it out. But you can't go into August with 4 starters.
All right. Before I let you go, a couple little rapid fire. Phillies buyers or sellers at the trade deadline?
Buyers.
Yeah. Big buyers, filling spots.
I think medium buyers, definitely. I guess some of it depends how these next couple of weeks go out, but Dave Dombrowski isn't someone that is tweak around the edges guy. He's good. If he has a team he thinks can win, he's going to go in with it.
Okay. And then after all of the dust settles and the dog days of summer are happening in August and September, how does this, at this moment, we're going to do this again in a couple of weeks, but at this moment, do you believe the Phils are a postseason team?
I do. I believe they're going to win that 3rd wild card spot. Before the year, I said 88 wins and 1 game above Gabe Kapler and the Giants at 87. And
you're right on right now.
Yeah, right now I didn't feel so good when the Giants were here in late May, but I feel great about it right now, so I'll stick with that.
Yeah, so folks, if you're watching that wild card race, and it's a little early still, but we do it anyway. The Giants, the Padres, the Braves, the Cardinals are really the teams that you're watching that will affect the Phillies going forward. So those are the ones you want to keep your eye on each and every night as we move forward. Tim Kelly from Phillies Nation, great insights as always. We certainly appreciate it, and I'll see you down at the ballpark.
Sounds good, Murph.
All right, we'll take a quick break, but more to come here on Glove Stories. Stay with us.
Welcome to This Week in Philly Baseball History, presented by SHIBE Vintage Sports. This week in 2015, a 22-year-old Aaron Nola made his major league debut at home against Tampa. The Louisiana native allowed just 1 run through 6 innings, a home run from the opposing pitcher. Celebrate more Philly sports history with clothing from SHIBE Vintage Sports, where there's a story in every stitch. Visit them at 13th and Walnut Streets or at shibesports.com.
The all-new betPARX Casino and Sportsbook app is here for both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Get in on all the action, whether it's baseball, the basketball and hockey playoffs, golf, all your favorite sports. Download the all-new betPARX Casino and Sportsbook app and make your first bet risk-free up to $750. Bet more than the score. Bet on individual player performances for hits, home runs, and strikeouts. Bet innings, first team to score, and more. betPARX is the only sportsbook and casino app that I recommend. The betPARX Casino and Sportsbook app, where odds, bets, slots, and games all come together in perfect harmony right in your pocket. Sportsbook and all your favorite casino games for real money, all in one amazing app. Live in-game betting lets you bet while you watch the game. Download right now in the App Store, Google Play Store, or at betPARX.com and use my promo code Murph. betPARX is also an official proud betting operator of the PGA Tour. The all-new betPARX Casino and Sportsbook app. You must be 21 and in Pennsylvania or New Jersey. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Phillies Nation is your source for breaking news, original analysis, trade insights, and more. Read today's articles at PhilliesNation.com. Glove Stories with Murph is sponsored by the betPARX Casino and Sportsbook app, along with SHIBE Vintage Sports and Phillies Nation, and is a presentation of SBC Media Partners. The engineer for Glove Stories is Chad Evans. Cindy Webster is our marketing and guest relations director, and our executive producer is Roger Haddon. Whether you are watching us on YouTube or downloading the podcast from one of the major podcast providers like Apple, Google, or Spotify, make sure to hit like and subscribe so that we can let you know when a new episode of Glove Stories is available. We'll release new episodes weekly throughout the 2022 Major League Baseball season.